again, those of you on online class. This is class number 4, course number 6 on inner peace. This is class number 4, and we're going to talk a little bit more about actually being able to create your inner peace. And it's going to be, I was going to read a story from the Quandaries and Queries that's on the chapter on page 46 for those of you following in this room in the book or those that have the book. And it's a rather long story. And basically, it's about Lisa having an aha moment about waking up to how she needs to change her lives and start really embracing her own capacity to create inner peace and to change her life. And I'm going to let you read it on your own, okay? And then I want you to turn to chapter 6, if you will, and you'll notice that chapter 6 is an interesting title. It's called Resolutions, Solutions, Decisions, and Inner Peace. And what I find with all individuals that don't have inner peace is that they don't follow really typical things that you have to do in order to gain inner peace. And those of us that have experienced abuse and trauma that are in the midst of recovery, we may feel like these very practical things are not relevant to us because we're dealing with complicated sorts of recovery issues, right? But what we find is that being able to embrace the everyday tools that change our inside to address cultivating the inner peace space is very similar for individuals who are recovering from abuse and trauma and those individuals that have just never lived very tuned into themselves or very consciously. So what I'm going to suggest is that you definitely get the book because I think it's very clear. But we're talking about the sweet awes of resolution. If you have something that is troubling you, that is not being solved, you are going to feel the stir of that thing not being done. And it's the easier that you can get it done, the more likely you are going to get to the end of the tunnel. Now, there are those things that can't be done for years, right? And you have to work for them, you have that goal. And you can't sit there distressed and disturbed by it not being done for all those years. So what you do is you actually break it down into little teeny steps. And those little teeny steps, how small they have to be, will allow you at the end of a week to say, okay, I did that step toward my overarching goal. Now, if your overarching goal is losing weight and you have 100 pounds to lose, you lost a pound this week. You're meeting that resolution of the week. I know that sounds discouraging, but if you hadn't had that resolution, you hadn't done what you did, you wouldn't lose that 1 pound. I'm not a real big fan of looking at losing weight as the goal as much as celebrating and gaining in life and health. I think that's a much more motivating, thriving, healthy perspective. But I just want to use that as an illustration. There are also times when we are procrastinators, we delay, we avoid, or we pass something on to somebody else, or we just ignore it. Just don't see it, don't see it, don't see it. And all of those particular things really do get in the way of us having inner peace because part of inner peace is being able to resolve things, to make things come into a state of solution. And when things are not resolved, we have a state of tension because they're not done. It's a little bit like when you're listening to music and it's all disharmonious, and then suddenly it kind of resolves into something harmonious. And harmony would be akin to inner peace. So I have certain mantras, and we're going to practice them in this group, and also we're going to do them in the first meditation that's associated to this class. And these are called Just Get It Done. Okay, that's one of the meditations I'm looking through here so you can know that Just Get It Done is mentioned on page 53. Just Get It Done is a mantra. The next mantra that we're going to practice is, and I'm looking for it, I'm sorry about that, the mantra of learning curve frustration, so you learn how to deal with that. You want to learn how to do the freeze 1, 2, 3, FREEZ 1, 2, 3, freeze method of learning how to stop something that's not good and moving into something that's better. And then also Mel Robbins has a wonderful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. That's very helpful. And then there's the military boot camp. Now these particular meditations I am going to incorporate into what we do here as a group, and you'll see that on the first meditation as well. The other thing that I want you to recognize is that in order to be able to move into inner peace, you also want to be able to make decisions. And you'll notice on this page, this is page suddenly we don't have page numbers. Uh, that would be probably page 70. Okay. You'll see this chart here, right here, and those are what I call the GPS systems. They help you make decisions, and making a decision as opposed to living in limbo, as opposed to never making decision because you're afraid of the outcome, or not knowing what you base your decision on and not being sure. In situations when you're uncertain about what to do, I suggest that you follow up on what I call another KISS method here, and it's KISS. The K is knowledge tools, the I is intuitional tools, the S, the first one is sensorium tools, and the last one is situational observation. Now, guess what, guys? And this was going to be the second meditation associated to this class. This particular application of KISS means you don't base your decision on just one thing. You base it on research, so that in the research of collecting information, you gain knowledge, wisdom, some sort of head level experience of what you're talking about, and expertise. And you may even consult with other individuals. That's when psychotherapists, for example, or maybe you want to do something with your physiology, so you go to a psychiatrist, a physician, an exercise trainer, a nutritionist, or you go online and you learn these different knowledge-based things. These are consulting the experts or becoming a type of expert on your own. You need to know your own level of knowledge and gain knowledge. Knowledge is really important. There are lots of ways of gaining it. And nowadays on the internet, you can gain it by reading and watching videos or chatting with people or consulting with people. So there's no excuse for not being able to gain it. And you do have to realize that you can get bad knowledge, and you can get bad information, you can get fake news, you can get really inaccurate information. But you can also kind of test that out by your own experience, your own wisdom, and a collective of a lot of people's information, until you kind of begin to feel like things are making sense and they're logically fitting together. The second thing you want to accumulate is also your own intuition. Now, people often think, listen to your heart, listen to your emotions, listen to your gut. But intuition is so much bigger than that. And I explain it in the book, and I'm going to leave most of that explanation to you being able to read about this. But intuition actually consults potentially 10,000 bits of data in a given second that your brain is receiving. And it's both consulting your history. And those of us that have abuse and trauma history have to realize that abuse and trauma has distorted both our knowledge and also our intuition. And so we have to regroom our intuition to base it into reality. And we have to groom our knowledge to base it into the ordinary, non-traumatized, non-abused reality. So our intuition can wrongfully be informed by our history and our traumas and our horrible feelings. We may not have really good capacity to listen to ourselves, to even know when there's danger, because we may just feel like it's always dangerous because we are been traumatized. And when you're in trauma and you're reenacting it, everything feels startling, everything feels worrisome, everything is unpredictable, everything is frightening, everything has the potential of causing harm because you've experienced it. You know that harm can come out of nowhere and hurt you and those that you love. So you're no longer innocent on that. So your intuition is skewed because you have that beautiful, well-trained skepticism. And that skepticism now serves you. There's no question. That's part of your expertise, your experience. That's your knowledge. But you also have to remember that there's still something inside of you that you want to tune into. And I believe it's in the alignment of your brain. You have 3 areas of your body that we currently know that have brain tissue. I think there's brain tissue in every cell in your body. We'll leave that aside because the research says there's brain tissue in your skull and what we call your brain tissue in your heart, and brain tissue in your stomach. There's also neurotransmitters. That's the juices that allow the brain tissue to function very well in those 3 regions. And I think that's when we have alignment, that our head can think clearly, got the data, kind of the researcher, the thinker through, the one that talks it through, thinks it through, feels it through, analyzes it through, compares history to present to future, and also our heart, what we feel, good, bad, frightened, calm, and also our gut. Does it make us feel at ease, or does it tense, or does it empower us and strengthen us, or does it make us feel weak and vulnerable? And so that we want to actually listen to all these systems in you. And then this collective experience of the 10,000 bits of data that you're collecting, and you have 33 senses, which gets us to our next S. You have a lot of data coming to you. You really want to kind of allow as much data as you can that's both internal and also external, until there kind of feels like there's this synchronization, and like a path kind of feels clearer because of the synchronization of everything that kind of fits together. Well, I just made a hint to the second S, which is sensorium. And again, this is on page 70. Sensorium is all of your senses, and we usually think of the five senses, right? So what can you take in of data just by your senses? Do you smell something? Do you feel something? Do I smell something that's off? Do I hear something that's off? Do I have this intuitive sense, that's the eye, that something's off? Do I see something that's off? Do I just have all these things in my sensorium? But we have 33 different sensorium systems in our body. 33 and counting. There may be more than that by the time you hear this class. So you're very well equipped, but you have to know what your equipment is, and you have to know how to use it, and that's what I'm trying to get you to do. And then also S is your situational observations. We could say that's your ability to observe using the five senses, and that would be accurate, but I want you to also realize that just the way you take in what's going on, and the facts and the data and what's going on, the actual way of going like this and noticing the situational observation is a big help to you as well. After you have taken in all this data and you're sifting it through, and you feel this sense of synchronization or alignment, or that most of the information seems to lead you in this direction, then if the decision you're going to make is going to help you. Now remember, this is about the chapter of resolution and decision making that's associated to peaceful, inner peaceful living. Because you live more peacefully when you have resolution and when you have solutions, when you can make decisions. So I want you to fully take this in, that your ability to make decisions actually enables you to have more confidence in yourself, that you can steer your own boat, that you can walk your own path, that you can take in the details, and you can come up with your own conclusions that are going to be more helpful to you than not. Now, those of us that have suffered abuse and trauma, guess what? We have data in our history and experiences in those horrible moments that actually inform us. And eventually we want to go back and we want to kind of write what we wish we had known before we entered into that unfortunate situation that might have helped us avoid that. Not to blame us, not to find guilt, but just wisdom. We gain collective experiences. You learn through mistakes as much as you learn through accurate activities. So you want to go back and write that instruction book, and you also want to go to what was my intuition, what were the sensations, what was my situational observation, what knowledge did I not listen to, what type of information did I not act on. You want to kind of go back and take the instructions of those horrible moments so that you can begin to build your own instruction book. And when you have your own instruction book, you begin to have more inner peace, because you sense that next time you'll have more control. Next time you'll have more tools. Next time you have more information. And you also want to be able to share that with others. And that's a very valuable way of being able to walk into an inner peaceful moment. I'm going to shift also to the next chapter of inner peace, and that's that of creating invigoration. We have inner peace when our body is healthy, because it allows the blood and the neurotransmitters and the hormones and all of the electricity to flow in and out of every single cell in our body. And that invigoration that comes from healthy living, exercise, good eating, keep the electrolytes balanced, sleeping. And you want to really make a priority of giving your body the capacity to both relax and release and create energy, and to make those healthy choices. And that chapter is very, very helpful. And in one of the courses, we talk about how to manage your body as recovering from abusive trauma is so essential. Without your body being completely available to you, I'm going through the pages making sure I cover the ideas. Without your body being completely available or optimized in the moment, you don't recover your inner peace nearly as well as when you do when you feel like, oh, my body is on board. Now, in addition, with abuse and trauma recovery, we need to walk our body and all the various aspects of our body out of the traumatic memories and experiences. And we will be talking about that in another class. Okay, we're going to be doing some experiments on this, but here is a parable. So simply, said Master Steyung, destructiveness destroys reliably. Constructiveness constructs most definitely. Compassion stirs kindness unquestionably. Ascension tools breed ascension experiences. Practices of peacefulness stir inner peace. Simple. It's simply simple. This is from the book Quandaries and Queries that I wrote. This is about Alec and Lisa. Alec suffered from depression and anxiety throughout his life, and with 2 alcoholic parents and with a mom who added heroin to the mix. Family time was bizarre. His creative capacities to escape into inventive contemplations and entrepreneurial endeavors kept him associated with peers and teachers who shared his productive, constructive paths. So Alec turned his escapes from home's insanity into avenues of self-expression and invigoration. Ty, Henry, Lisa, and Helena were his new family friends in this new home in the hecticness of the metropolitan city life. Friends, worthy friends, gave him hope that his past would not become a DNA for his future. He took in the mottos of the following: suffering can build resilience. Crisis can produce profound solutions. Abuse can stir commitment to loving respect. Lisa, Ollie was spoiled by the high-level professional parents whose income was embarrassingly limitless. Lisa was spoiled and constantly groping for gratification. For Lisa, there were emotional chasms growing up due to being raised largely by paid, dispassionate nannies, chauffeurs, and materialistic addictions. So the question to you to contemplate: why is narcissistic entitlement and materialistic gluttonous gratifications so often linked to emotional emptiness and chronic discontentment? And that question poses a contradistinction between those of us who have suffered abuse and trauma and have had to climb our way to the top of very deep foxholes, very deep trenches, out of war zones, and individuals that have never had to work through that don't have the same muscles. And therefore, maybe those of us that are recovering from abuse and trauma actually have a better capacity to reach deep, deep levels of inner peacefulness. Maybe we're the ones that strive to transform our lives because we know so desperately that we want to move away from what we have finally escaped. Maybe those of us that recover from abuse and trauma rise above to transforming our lives because we know that that 4th cave is even better than the 3rd and the 2nd and the 1st. And even though the 1st and 2nd and 3rd cave are amazing because they are out of escape and into recovery, but maybe that 4th cave is where so much transformational living resides. And we want that for ourselves because we've tasted the opposite to such an extreme degree. All right, I'll see you in the next class, and we're going to go on to a meditation related to it.